Hello there. What is going on, everyone? Today we are going to be taking a sneak peek at 3 cards from an upcoming set called Crabbid Reinforcements. What is Crabbid Reinforcements? Well, I'll tell you. It's a new set for Star Wars Armada that I've been working on. It's been a labor of love, and I thought I would be sharing it with you guys this Christmas time. So for today, I'm just going to give you 3 cards. This will be a 9-card set. It'll be a free download. You can check it out, and if you like it, you're more than welcome to test it out and use it in your games if you want to. But yes, so this is, we're going to give you guys a look at 3 cards that are going to be coming in the Crabbid Reinforcements set. Kind of very similar to Rapid Reinforcements. You know, we have Rapid Reinforcements 1 put out by AMG, and it's a very cool idea of a PDF kind of set that can be used in games. Hopefully they'll do another set, and if they don't, well, then that's fine. And if they do, then that's great. Then this can just hold us over until that point. If you guys are new here to the channel, we are still doing plenty of giveaways. We've got the lightsaber giveaway. We've got the 12 Days of Life Day giveaway. If you want to enter to win any of those, you just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. Any of these gifts for the 12 Days of Life Day that go unclaimed, those are going to roll over into Patreon. So if you're a Patreon supporter already, you've got 2 times the chances to win because you still can enter to win like everybody else on the channel. I typically announce winners towards the end of my videos, so make sure you watch all the way to the end. And if you want to learn more about Patreon or join our Discord or follow social media links, any of that stuff, all of that information is in the video description below. So I encourage you to check it out. And with all that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the previews, shall we? All right, so our first card is called Geranium Armor Plating. This is a modification. It's a defensive retrofit. It's 4 points, so a little on the cheaper side. And it's quite simple. It just increases your hull value by 1. Now, this one, I went back and forth on this one quite a bit, thinking, you know, what's going to be too strong to give to, you know, the bigger ships? What's going to be too cheap, you know, for them, or what's going to be too much to that smaller ships could use as well. And smaller ships were definitely an influencing factor for this card. There's a lot of small ships that have defensive retrofit that tend not to use it more often than not, and I thought that was kind of a shame. You know, a lot of the defensive retrofits that are out there are kind of geared more towards medium and large ships to help them stay alive and mitigate like large chunks of damage, and that really doesn't apply very much to the smaller ships. The only one that was kind of close, I feel like, is a card like Reinforced Blast Doors that, you know, that can get rid of 3 damage cards. And that one kind of has always been a possible option for small ships that do tend to take a defensive retrofit, but I wanted something to compete with that. I always, like, whenever I look at Armada and I'm trying to think of like card ideas, because I brainstorm all the time, I look at like a slot that has like the one go-to upgrade that, you know, people always choose. Like, what's the, you know, what are some of the most popular upgrades in the game? Why are they that popular? Is it because there's nothing else competes with them? You know, and that's kind of one of the things that drove me to this. I didn't want to make this small ship only, however, because I don't like doing that. I feel like that's a little bit of a cop-out sometimes, and I thought in this case it might be easier to make it to where, yes, this can work on a Star Destroyer, and that means you can, if you want, you could, you know, I think like I have to look at like the worst case for some of these, and I think like Mahdi, and the biggest abuse of this card might be if an Imperial Star Destroyer took this card and Admiral Mahdi, and that would bump them up to 15 hull. Like, that would be strong, but of course they'd already be at 14 hull anyway. So is that 1 hull going to be that big of a difference? Especially since it's now a modification. And especially since that means you can't take ECM, because I promise you, ECM is going to stop more damage than that. ECM is going to stop more damage than Reinforced Blast Doors, you know? So on a big ship, you know, ECM is usually the way that you go. You know, not 100% of the time, but a lot of the time. You know, this is only going to stop, you know, a 1 hit worth of damage, or basically, right? It's 1 extra hit points. Whereas Reinforced Blast Doors is 3 extra hit points. You know, I think the Reinforced Blast Doors is way better than Geranium Armor Plating on a large ship. But at the same time, I think ECM is better than Reinforced Blast Doors. So So what about for a medium ship? Medium ships tend to fall into the same category, although blast doors could be good for them as well. But for the smaller ships, I wanted something that would still be cheaper than reinforced blast doors, because again, this one can be 3 extra damage or 3 extra hits that it's allowing you to take during the course of the game. On top of the 3, it's also not a modification. So I wanted this to be something that was cheaper than reinforced blast doors, so I came up with the 4-point cost for this one. And I think it may get taken on some small ships, especially if maybe if you're not doing a small ship swarm, but if you're just doing like the occasional small ship that you want to go get objectives or something like that, and you don't want it to accidentally get one-shotted, that's the idea with the Geranium Armor plating. Next up, the Calibrated Targeting Grid. So the Calibrated Targeting Grid is an offensive retrofit that is actually going to be offensive, and there's not too many of those. And that was another thing that kind of drove me to this. And like this is a type of upgrade slot that's always been a pet peeve of mine, because I feel like the offensive retrofit slot is almost always used for squadron support, and I don't feel like if you outfitted a ship, a capital starship, with offensive retrofits, that those would equate to like antennas or docking facilities for fighters. I feel like it should be more offensive weaponry. When I think of offensive, I think of cannons and things like that. And so that's the idea of this, is to kind of better calibrate your existing guns. I didn't want it to give dice. Because giving extra dice is super fun, but that can snowball out of control. So in this case, it's Calibrated Targeting Grid is a 5-point offensive retrofit. It says, when attacking a ship with speed equal to yours, you may exhaust this card to reroll 1 die. It's not terribly powerful. It's pretty straightforward. It's just a single reroll. You can potentially do it every turn. And so that's like 6 rerolls over the course of a game, potentially. And I kind of like it. It could potentially combo with things like Interdictor, right? So I had to consider that, because if it was really strong but exhausted, like the Interdictor title for the Empire could potentially get this thing readied again. And then, then it could be a little too strong. So you have to think, well, what's the most strong this could be, and would that be an abuse? And I don't think in that case it would be that bad. Also, I had to think about other offensive retrofits that were offensive. There's really only 2, and it's disposable capacitors and flak guns. They are situational. Not every ship can really use those. Flak guns, for example, is barely effective at all if a ship doesn't have salvo. Disposable capacitors is only for small and medium ships, and on top of that, they already have to have enough blue dice to make it worthwhile, and it's also only a once per game thing. So Calibrated Targeting Grid ends up being a little bit more expensive than those, because of the fact that it's so versatile, and it can go on any ship that has offensive retrofit, and it can work on any ship that has offensive retrofit. It does have the disqualifier of it being an exhaustible, maybe not disqualifier. It does have the limitation of being a once per round option, and it also has the limitation of having to match speed. So, but that's the more of the theme of it, is that your ship is kind of calibrated. If both of our ships are moving at the same speed relative to each other, it's almost like we're not moving, and so that's what calibrates the guns for that and gives us the slightly better accuracy of having a single reroll. And so I like that. And it also, you can always roll your dice, and you can see I don't need it for this one, I'll use it for the second shot, or something like that. So I like that. And I also liked cards that kind of referenced the opponent's speed, like with quads do. And also I had to think about, like, you might want to min-max a ship and give it the extra dice, maybe give it, spinal armament and other things like that. And everything that's going to add extra dice, Krennic, or what was like one of the, what are some of the combos that can really add extra dice and rerolls. And sometimes having multiple rerolls really help you inflate a dice pool, or fish for accuracies, or fish for doubles, double damages on dice and things like that. So that's another reason why it ended up being a little more expensive, but not outrageous. Next up is the Brilliance Engineer. This one's a fun one. This one's a little more restrictive on where it can go. It's transport only. So if you're not familiar with what I mean by that, that's one of the new traits or ship keywords that have shown up on the new Clone Wars ships and all the newer ships since Armada 1.5. What that is it's in one of the new keywords that we've seen mostly on the Republic and the Separatist stuff, but also some of the also on the Rebel Providence for rapid reinforcements. He's an officer and says when you would discard a defense token for any reason, you may discard this card instead, and he costs 6 points. He's a little expensive because he can potentially get you back a brace or something like that. So I think that's worth a little bit of points. And the idea for this guy, like the theme is, I was trying to come up with something that what would transport actually do for a ship. There's the idea that it could transport goods or foodstuffs or something like that, which doesn't sound very Armada-ish. But then there's the other idea that a transport ship has actual lodging. And it actually has quarters or billeting for VIPs. And maybe it actually has a bed. Maybe he has his own private bathroom on this ship. And he's a brilliant engineer. He's a hot shot. He's a rock star. He is in demand. And he can pick and choose what ships he decides he's going to fly on. And once he does his job, he's done. He's paid by the hour, right? And so transport only, and he's a once per game effect. He's like, yeah, I can fix your your brace token, no problem. And now, all right, guys, that's gonna do it. We're out of here. The ship's taking fire. Okay, look, I'll fix it this time, and then I'm gone. So that's kind of how he works. Things like Whalix Blissix were always a cool card. I feel like you could. Like, I have to think about what's the worst case scenario, and I feel like you could potentially combo him with Whalix Blissix on the Rebel Providence, which does have transport and it has 2 officer slots, but still that's going to be very, very expensive for that ship just to, get a defense token back on a ship that's really not that threatening. I think more than likely he's going to probably be on Clone Wars era ships that happen to have transport, ships that maybe could have used some help. Acclimators have transport, the Munificent, the Pelta, one of the Republic Peltas happens to have that. And so I think there's definitely some options in here to be able to keep a brace or keep a salvo active, which is a really cool option for him to be able to keep a salvo active for factions that didn't have it. I know the Separatists have Grievous, but if they don't want to run Grievous, now they have another option. So I think that could be cool. And he's also not the only person that we're going to see that happens to have one of the new keyword traits required on there. So stay tuned for more. All right, guys, so that is the preview. I also want to announce a winner of the Life Day giveaway. Today's Life Day giveaway is going to win for Star Wars Armada, the new GR75, well, the new-ish GR75 promo. This was a Gen Con or a Worlds Qualifier promo giveaway, and though today's winner is going to be Michael Calabretta, so congratulations, Michael. Make sure you email me at mailcrabbok@gmail.com. Include what you've won. I need your shipping information, all that other good stuff. To everybody else, there's plenty more giveaways left in December, so stay tuned for that. Also, big thanks to my patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing and help make this whole channel possible, so thank you for your continued support. I will talk to you later. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. And happy holidays. Ho, ho, ho.